In the year 1847, drifter Tom Garrett made his entrance into the Sullivan Ranch, nestled within the rugged expanse of Wyoming territory, carrying with him a fortune in gold, enough to procure the most exquisite horse. He was taken aback to discover a widowed mother and her 6 children teetering on the brink of losing everything to relentless debt collectors, all intertwined with a shadowy secret from his outlaw past. What he uncovered would compel him to decide between the security of a solitary existence and the perilous openness of allowing 6 strangers to become the family he had always feared desiring. Yet, when his former gang leader implicates him in a bank heist, will Tom's newly found family remain loyal to a man whose history threatens to unravel them all? A gunshot shattered the tranquility of the Wyoming morning, causing ravens to burst from the pine trees in a flurry of black confetti. Tom Garrett's horse pranced sideways, the sound reverberating off the rugged hills, yet Tom's unwavering hands remained firm on the reins. In his 32 years, he had encountered enough gunfire to discern the distinction between the thrill of the hunt and the ominous sound of danger. This particular shot resonated with the crisp crack of a rifle, signaling the end of a creature's suffering. The autumn wind of 1847 whispered tales across these territories, recounting the struggles of families bracing for another brutal winter, of debts accumulating like tumbleweeds, and of men driven to desperation, willing to seize what was not rightfully theirs. Tom's fingers brushed against the leather pouch concealed beneath his tattered coat, sensing the heft of gold coins amassed over 3 years of diligent labor, breaking horses for cattle ranches stretching from Colorado to Montana. Sufficient funds to acquire the most exquisite stallion west of the Mississippi, with perhaps a little extra to embark on a new venture. Before me, smoke ascended from a chimney, a gray ribbon unfurling against the vast blue expanse of the sky. The Sweetwater Ranch unfurled in the valley beneath him, its weathered buildings, remnants of a bygone era, still standing resolutely against the encroaching wilderness. Horses grazed in a pasture that unfurled toward distant mountains, their coats shimmering like polished copper against the backdrop of midnight silk. Tom's discerning gaze noted no fewer than 20 head of exceptional stock, the sort of creatures capable of ensuring a man's safe passage through any escapade. Yet, an unsettling sensation lingered in the air. The main house lingered in an unsettling silence for midday, while the barn doors swung ajar, suggesting a hasty departure. There were no cowboys to be found in the corrals, no ranch hands to mend the fences or tend to the equipment. To ensure the smooth operation of such an expansive spread, Tom concluded that a minimum of 4 able-bodied men would be required, laboring from dawn until dusk. He led his mare along the serpentine trail, observing how the recent rains had carved deep gullies into the path, damage that ought to have been mended weeks prior. As he approached, the nuances unfolded, revealing a narrative steeped in hardship. Fence posts slouched at peculiar angles, supported more by routine than by resilience. The vegetable garden adjacent to the house revealed the fruits of diligent care, yet the tool shed's roof drooped, burdened by absent shingles. Tom stepped down from his mount, his boots striking the dry, compacted earth of the front porch, a surface parched from days without rain. The house stood resolute, its weary facade belying the strength within, 2 stories of meticulously crafted logs adorned with windows that gleamed brightly in the afternoon light. A sense of pride once enveloped this place, despite the absence of adequate resources for its upkeep. Just as his knuckles were about to make contact, the front door swung wide, revealing the unexpected. A woman emerged onto the porch, prompting Tom to instinctively lift his hat, an action performed without a moment's deliberation. She was of medium height, her red hair neatly secured in a practical bun, green eyes that observed everything, and a sprinkle of flowers adorning the front of her blue dress. Perhaps in her mid-30s, she bore the poised dignity of one who had mastered the art of confronting adversity directly. "You'll be here about the horses," she said, her voice imbued with the lilting cadence of Ireland. It was not a question, but rather a statement that implied she had anticipated his arrival, even though Tom had given no prior notice of his coming. "Indeed, ma'am." Thomas Garrett gestured toward the pasture where the horses grazed serenely, embodying tranquility. "I came across your advertisement in the Cheyenne newspaper. Claims you possess premium inventory available for purchase." A flicker crossed her face, a blend of relief and worry, reminiscent of someone who is thankful for good news, yet hesitant to embrace it fully. "Eleanor Sullivan, These creatures stand as the pinnacle of excellence in the region, meticulously bred by my late husband for their remarkable strength and keen intelligence. Each one has been expertly trained to manage cattle or to bear riders across the most challenging landscapes. The word late struck Tom with the force of a tangible impact. This woman stood solitary on a ranch that required unending toil, striving to oversee livestock and land that would test the mettle of even seasoned men. It's hardly surprising that the location bore the marks of abandonment. She was waging a war against insurmountable challenges. The flutter of movement beyond the house windows drew his gaze. Visages emerged and faded away like timid, cherished youngsters of differing years, observing this unfamiliar figure with inquisitive gazes. Tom spotted no fewer than 4 young ones before they vanished from view, likely alerted by their mother to remain hidden when guests appeared. "May I have a glance at your horses, Mrs. Sullivan?" Tom inquired, though his curiosity leaned more towards the tale hidden within those observant eyes than the act of acquiring livestock. Eleanor gestured toward the pasture with a subtle nod. "Certainly, Mr. Garrett, but I must caution you that these creatures are not suited for those who rely on whips and spurs. My husband embraced the idea of a harmonious partnership between horse and rider, rather than one of dominance. Their footsteps led them to the corral, where a cluster of horses had assembled by the fence, intrigued by the presence of the newcomers. Tom admired the animals' fearless demeanor, their keen interest in the humans who had ventured into their territory. It was a reassuring indication that they had been met with respect and kindness. "Less Thantex, this beauty here is copper," Eleanor said, indicating a chestnut mare whose coat gleamed like burnished metal. At 6 years old, she was gentle enough for children yet strong enough to work cattle all day. The black gelding is indeed thunderfast, as his name implies, and possesses the keen intelligence to foresee his rider's needs. Tom observed the horses with increasing wonder. These were not merely good animals, they were extraordinary, the sort of lineage that affluent ranchers sought to possess at premium prices. Yet here stood this woman, clearly desperate for funds, presenting her husband's life's work to a complete stranger. "Mrs. Sullivan," Tom said with caution, "horses like these hold significant value, far beyond what most people in this area could manage to pay." Her shoulders drooped ever so slightly, and Tom caught a fleeting glimpse of the fatigue she had been concealing beneath her carefully maintained facade. "I recognize their worth, Mr. Garrett. Yet, worth holds no significance if there are no purchasers ready to offer equitable prices. Many suitors who have approached me seek to acquire the whole herd for a mere fraction of its true value, fully aware that my options are limited and that I am likely to acquiesce." The afternoon sun dipped lower in the sky, stretching shadows across the ranch yard in elongated forms. In the distance, thunder rumbled, not the sound of an approaching storm, but a deep resonance that foretold rain before nightfall. Tom sensed a stirring in his chest, an emotion long dormant during his years of solitary wandering. "How many children are you nurturing in this place, ma'am?" The inquiry escaped his lips before he had a chance to restrain it. Eleanor's gaze intensified, embodying the fierce protectiveness of a mother evaluating a looming danger. "6. From the tender age of 6 to the blossoming years of 16. What prompts your inquiry?" "Half a dozen youngsters." Tom's thoughts spun wildly as he contemplated the immense weight of responsibility this woman bore all on her own. The burden of food, clothing, education, medical care, and protection rests heavily on shoulders already strained by the challenges of a struggling ranch. "Curious about how you handle such a vast array of responsibilities," Tom remarked sincerely. "It must require immense strength and unwavering determination." Before Eleanor had the chance to reply, a boy stepped out from the barn, tall and lanky, with dark hair and intense eyes that seemed to belong to someone far beyond his years. With a rifle slung effortlessly over his shoulder, he advanced, his eyes fixed unwaveringly on Tom's face. "Mother, is everything well out here?" The boy's voice wavered, a subtle reminder of his youth, even as he endeavored to project an air of adult authority. "All is well, Patrick. Mr. Garrett has arrived to observe the horses." Eleanor's voice resonated with a blend of pride and affection as she introduced her eldest son. "Patrick assists me in managing the ranch. I simply couldn't get by without him." Patrick nodded in acknowledgement, his grip on the rifle steady, not menacing but poised for action. Tom discerned the posture of an individual who had mastered the art of safeguarding what was truly precious, no matter the sacrifice involved. As if beckoned by the arrival of their older brother, more children emerged from the nooks and crannies of the ranch. A boy, likely around 14, with ink-stained fingers, stood alongside a girl of 12, her hair a vibrant shade of red reminiscent of her mother's. Two younger siblings lingered shyly near the porch steps. Each child bore the marks of hard work and responsibility that belied their youth, yet their bright eyes and healthy appearances spoke of the love and care that surrounded them. The final arrival was the Smolesta girl, perhaps 6 years old, who held tightly to a cornhusk doll and regarded Tom with serious green eyes that mirrored her mother's. She leaned in close to the doll, murmuring a secret, then lifted her gaze to meet the eyes of the tall stranger who had intruded upon their realm. Tom sensed the delicate barriers he had built starting to fracture. They were not merely individuals attempting to peddle a horse, they were a family engaged in a struggle for survival. Their quiet dignity and unwavering loyalty to one another stirred echoes of dreams he had long since forsaken. Thunder rumbled ominously in the distance, and soon the first heavy raindrops started to descend from the sky. What sort of man would Tom Garrett decide to become when confronted with a family that required more assistance than he had ever anticipated providing? "That storm's going to be a big one," Eleanor remarked, her gaze drifting toward the ominous sky as raindrops started to pelt the parched earth like a shower of scattered coins. "You may find it suitable to linger in the barn, Mr. Garrett, though I have a feeling you'll prefer to continue your journey before the sun sets." Tom perceived the courteous rejection woven into her words, yet an inexplicable force compelled him to pause. Perhaps it was the manner in which Patrick clutched that rifle, poised to protect his family from any looming danger. Perhaps it was the way the youngest girl, Molly, he had heard Eleanor call her, peered at him from behind her mother's skirts, her curious eyes reflecting an innocence untouched by fear. Or perhaps it was just that after 3 years of slumbering beneath the stars and consuming cold beans from a can, the warm yellow glow pouring from the house windows appeared as if it were drawn from a half-remembered dream. "Indeed, ma'am, I was hoping to engage in a conversation regarding the terms for acquiring several of your horses," Tom remarked, astonished by his own utterance. "It may require some time to meticulously sort through the details." Eleanor's eyebrows arched in surprise. "A multitude of horses? The majority of buyers typically seek out 1 or 2 animals, at most. I represent several cattle operations in the northern region." Tom wove his lies with a practiced ease, the art of deception flowing from him more naturally than he would have preferred. "They are broadening their herds and require exceptional mounts for their cowboys, horses capable of navigating rugged landscapes and enduring long hours in the saddle." It seemed that the deception held a certain necessity. Tom had discovered long ago that individuals altered their behavior when they perceived one as possessing support, wealth, and a mission that transcended personal desires. A solitary wanderer, in search of a single steed, received a particular kind of reception. A representative of various enterprises seeking to acquire prized livestock encountered something completely different. "Well then," Eleanor said, a hint of uncertainty dancing in her green eyes, "perhaps we should continue this conversation inside. There's no reason for us all to be drenched." As they approached the house, Tom observed additional details that illustrated a scene of subdued despair. The front steps, meticulously swept, bore the marks of time, revealing worn patches where countless feet had ascended through the years. The porch railing bore the marks of time, patched in various spots with whatever wood was at hand, resulting in a mosaic of hues and textures that whispered of resourcefulness over meticulous restoration. Yet within its walls, the house whispered a tale altogether distinct. The central space radiated a sense of warmth and comfort, rooted not in wealth but in the embrace of love. Hand-sewn quilts adorned the modest furniture, while the aroma of freshly baked bread wafted through the air, a fragrant promise of plenty. Shelves, built into one wall, overflowed with books, more volumes than Tom had encountered beyond the confines of a town library. A piano lingered in one corner, its wooden surface gleaming with a shine that belied the instrument's evident age. "Children, come meet Mr. Garrett properly," Eleanor called, and Tom suddenly found himself enveloped by a sea of curious faces and enthusiastic introductions. At the age of 16, Patrick towered close to Tom's height, inheriting his mother's piercing gaze and the sturdy shoulders of one familiar with hard work. Michael, at the age of 14, bore the ink-stained fingers of a diligent student, his bright eyes sparkling with the insatiable hunger for knowledge, consuming it as one would a hearty meal. Bridget, at 12, inherited her mother's striking red hair and a sensible demeanor, while her younger brother Sean, just 8, radiated an exuberance that hinted at both trouble and playful mischief in equal parts. Little Molly, merely 6 years of age, hesitated at first, yet gradually inched forward as Tom lowered himself to meet her gaze. "What a lovely doll you have," he remarked softly. "Is there a name she goes by?" "She is known as Hope," Molly murmured, her grip on the cornhusk figure tightening. "Papa crafted her for me before he ascended to heaven. Mama often reminds us that hope serves as a beacon, guiding us to remember that even in our moments of sorrow, good things can still unfold." Tom experienced a profound tightening in his chest at the sight of the child's unadulterated belief. When did he cease to hold on to the hope that good things could unfold? When did hope transform into a commodity held by others, while he merely endured the passage of each day? "Hope's a perfect name for such a special doll," Tom said softly, and Molly responded with a smile that could have illuminated the oil lamps for an entire week. Eleanor moved with purpose in the kitchen, arranging the settings at the grand wooden table that commanded the heart of the room. "Surely you will join us for supper, Mr. Garrett. While it may not be extravagant, the venison stew paired with fresh bread offers a hearty meal, and there's more than enough to share." Tom began to voice his reluctance, insisting he didn't wish to intrude. Yet Patrick interjected from the other side of the room. "Ma always prepares ample food for surprise visitors. One can never predict when an individual may find themselves in need of a warm meal and a safe haven." As they convened around the table, Tom observed the distinct responsibilities each child embraced. With meticulous care, Michael sliced through the bread, each movement deliberate and exacting. Bridget carefully ladled the rich stew into bowls, while Sean methodically distributed spoons and napkins. Little Molly, eager to contribute, diligently folded the cloth napkins into neat triangles. Patrick offered grace with a voice that rang out clearly and powerfully, evoking memories for Tom of his father's prayers from what felt like ages past. The dialogue shared over dinner unveiled deeper insights into this extraordinary family than any corporate exchange ever could. Michael immersed himself in the complexities of advanced mathematics, guided by the books his father had procured, all the while nurturing dreams of one day becoming an engineer. Bridget aspired to be a teacher, and she had already taken the initiative to assist the younger children with their letters and numbers. Sean envisioned a journey into the Western Mountains, where the allure of gold, silver, or perhaps the thrill of adventure awaited him. Molly declared her dream of owning a horse one day, envisioning a gentle mare that would take her wherever her heart desired. "And what of you, Patrick?" Tom inquired of the eldest son. "What aspirations do you hold for the days to come?" Patrick cast a fleeting look at his mother before responding. "I intend to sustain this ranch and nurture my family. All other matters can hold off for now." The gravity of responsibility in those words struck Tom with the force of a physical blow. Once there was a boy who ought to be lost in his own dreams and adventures, yet he found himself bearing the weight of supporting 5 siblings and a widowed mother. The injustice of it caused Tom's jaw to tighten, a surge of unexpected anger rising within him. Once dinner had concluded, Eleanor busied herself with tucking the younger children into their beds, leaving Tom to find solitude with Patrick on the front porch. The storm had come in full force, lightning flashing across the sky, casting the landscape in dramatic contrasts reminiscent of stark black and white photographs. Thunder rattled the windows of the house while rain hammered the roof with the relentless power of nature unleashed. "How long has it been since your father passed?" Tom inquired softly. 6 months, Patrick replied. The fever arrived abruptly, claiming him in under a week. On a particular day, he found himself tending to the horses, contemplating enhancements for the ranch. Before we could fully grasp the moment, he had vanished. They lingered in a cozy stillness, attuned to the tempest that howled beyond the borders of their world. At last, Patrick broke the silence once more. "Mr. Garrett, may I pose a question directly to you? Alas, are you genuinely here to represent the cattle operations up north? Or are you merely another man seeking to exploit a widow burdened with too many children and too few choices?" Tom observed the boy's earnest expression illuminated by the soft glow filtering through the window. Patrick was entitled to the truth, even if the reality was more intricate than Tom could grasp on his own. "I came here to buy a horse," Tom said. his voice measured and deliberate. A single horse for my own use. I must confess, the narrative I spun about representing other businesses was untruthful, and for that, I sincerely apologize. Patrick's hand inched toward the rifle resting against the porch railing, yet his voice held firm and unwavering. So, what keeps you here? What prompted you to inform Ma about your desire to purchase multiple horses? Tom remained silent for an extended moment, searching for the right words to express emotions he struggled to understand. At times, a man embarks on a journey in search of one thing, only to uncover a need for something altogether unexpected. For 3 years I have roamed these lands, toiling on ranches and resting beneath the vast expanse of stars, never lingering long enough to claim a place as my own. Your family, this place evokes memories of something I believed I had lost for all time. What is that? The notion that finding a place to belong does not signify weakness, and that genuine care for others does not inevitably result in sorrow. Patrick pondered this thoughtfully. Ma has endured enough pain, Mr. Garrett. Each of us possesses this experience. If you intend to vanish by dawn, it may be wise to do so now before the young ones form too strong a bond. Before Tom had the chance to reply, Eleanor emerged in the doorway, her hair cascading around her shoulders, her expression tender and marked by the weariness of motherhood. Patrick, you really ought to get some rest, she said softly. The dawn breaks with haste, and the task of mending the fence in the northern pasture awaits us. Patrick rose to his feet, yet lingered at the threshold, caught in a moment of uncertainty before stepping inside. Mr. Garrett, whatever path you choose, I want you to understand that this family stands strong and does not require saving. A partnership is essential. There exists a distinction. As the boy vanished into the house, Eleanor took her place in the chair he had just left behind. The tempest raged on, battering the surroundings, yet the porch remained a bastion of tranquility and refuge. Tom noted that he possessed a wisdom that surpassed his age. He has been compelled to be, Eleanor responded. All of them have. Yet, I find myself concerned at times that they are maturing too swiftly, shouldering responsibilities that ought to rest with adults. Tom pondered the gold nestled within his saddlebags, a sum substantial enough to alter the course of his family's fate, yet it also represented the entirety of his life's savings, funds he had envisioned utilizing for his own new beginning, distant from the shadows of his previous errors and sorrows. Mrs. Sullivan, he said with deliberate caution, what would it require to preserve this ranch, to ensure your family has the security they rightfully deserve? Eleanor remained silent for such an extended period that Tom began to question whether she had even heard the inquiry. When she finally spoke, her voice bore the gravity of someone who had wrestled with insurmountable equations far too often. She stated it plainly, more than we possess. Few would be inclined to invest in a widow with 6 children and a ranch in dire need of extensive repairs. Once more, lightning erupted, casting a vivid glow over the terrain, revealing its intricate features, only to surrender it once again to the enveloping shadows. In that fleeting instant of insight, Tom resolved to take a step that would alter the course of his life forever. As he parted his lips to utter a word, the thunderous sound of galloping horses pierced the tempest, racing through the downpour, their haste hinting at tidings too pressing to be postponed until dawn. What sort of trouble was barreling toward the Sullivan Ranch, cutting through the night, and would Tom's newfound resolve be enough to ensure this family endured long enough to make a difference? As the last glimpse of Mrs. Henley's elegant black carriage faded into the distance, the rain began to descend, drenching the already muddy road. Tom observed the water cascading from the barn roof, each droplet creating a delicate splash in the expanding puddles below. His heart raced, akin to a rabbit fleeing from a predator. What had he just accomplished? He had spun an elaborate tale about acquiring numerous horses, and now this family regarded him as if he were their savior. Eleanor Sullivan lingered in the doorway, her emerald eyes meticulously examining his features. Though her lips remained sealed, Tom sensed the weight of her contemplation. From the porch, 6 pairs of eyes observed him intently. The eldest son, Patrick, stood with his arms crossed, an unmistakable air of distrust surrounding him. The youngest girl, Molly, nestled behind her mother's skirt, her curious eyes peeking out into the world. "What prompted you to take that action?" Eleanor inquired softly. Her voice was gentle, yet Tom discerned an undercurrent, perhaps a flicker of hope, or the trepidation that such hope could be extinguished. Tom removed his hat, letting his fingers glide through his dark hair. "I cannot say for certain, ma'am. It felt like the most appropriate course of action. He cast his gaze upon the children once more. The middle boy, Michael, clutched a pencil and a stack of papers, likely his schoolwork. Bridget and little Molly stood side by side, a testament to their unwavering bond and the care they always extended to one another. Patrick advanced, the echo of his boots resonating against the wooden porch. "Sir, we are not in need of charity. We are capable of looking after ourselves." His voice wavered slightly, reminiscent of the way young boys' voices shift as they attempt to adopt a more mature tone. "I'm sure you can," Tom said, his sincerity evident. "Yet, at times prioritizing your well-being involves allowing others to assist when they offer their support." Eleanor approached, and Tom inhaled the delightful aroma of freshly baked bread, mingling with the scent of soap. It evoked memories of a distant past, perhaps of his mother's kitchen, a place filled with warmth before the fever claimed his parents. "Garrett, I have a straightforward question for you. Are you genuinely interested in purchasing our horses, or is this merely an act of kindness on your part?" The question struck Tom with the force of a gut-wrenching blow. He found himself pondering the very same question. "I came here to buy one horse," he said, his voice measured and deliberate. "However, witnessing your family and observing the vision you're striving to create here, perhaps I find myself inclined to invest in something greater." "Could you clarify what you mean?" Bridget inquired. She appeared to be around 12, sporting red hair reminiscent of her mother's, and a scattering of freckles across her nose. Tom surveyed the expanse of the ranch. The fences required repair. The barn door swayed unevenly on its rusted hinges, yet the horses possessed a striking beauty, and the house, modest in size, exuded a warmth that lingered even amidst the chill of the rain. "Perhaps I seek the opportunity to lend a hand. Perhaps I am considering acquiring a residence to inhabit for some time." Sean, the young lad of 8, pulled gently at his mother's dress. "Mother, might he remain with us? He appears quite pleasant." His voice was a mere whisper, soft and tentative, as if he feared the repercussions of his words. Eleanor lowered herself to meet Sean's gaze. "What are your thoughts, darling? Is Mr. Garrett worthy of our trust?" Tom's throat constricted, a sensation of unease settling in. When was the last occasion someone inquired of a child their thoughts about him? When was the last occasion someone inquired at all? "He has kind eyes," Sean remarked, gazing directly at Tom, reminiscent of Papa. The words struck Tom with a force greater than any tempest. He averted his gaze for a brief instant, feigning interest in the falling rain. Yet, he was making a concerted effort to conceal just how deeply their uncomplicated faith resonated within him. "The bank is demanding $300, Eleanor declared abruptly. "Mrs. Henley informed us that we have a fortnight to settle the payment, or they will seize the ranch." Her voice remained unwavering, yet Tom noticed a slight tremor in her hands. $300. Tom possessed a wealth far beyond what lay in his saddlebags, a testament to years spent laboring on cattle drives and taking on various odd jobs. Yet, he understood that parting with it would not resolve all their troubles. It may prove insufficient to secure the ranch for the long haul. "What might be the potential value of the horses?" Tom inquired. Patrick's voice rose once more, youthful yet brimming with fury. "Insufficient. For months, we have endeavored to sell them. Individuals seek to offer only a fraction of what we truly deserve, fully aware of our urgency." Tom inclined his head in agreement. He had encountered it previously. Those who sensed desperation seized the opportunity. Imagine a scenario where we could take the time to discover the perfect buyers. Individuals willing to offer reasonable compensation? "We don't have time," Eleanor said. 2 weeks is insufficient to—" "It could be," Tom interjected softly, "if we collaborate, if we transform this place into a beacon of prosperity rather than one of despair, if we convey to others that you're not selling out of necessity, but rather because you are discerning about who receives your exquisite animals." Michael lifted his gaze from the scattered papers before him. "How astute, Mr. Garrett. Similar details where individuals feign wealth in hopes of attaining true prosperity." Tom offered a broad smile to the boy, precisely in that manner. "However, it signifies that we must all put in considerable effort. It signifies a deep-seated trust between one another." The rain intensified, a relentless percussion on the roof, each drop a tiny hammer striking with purpose. A distant flash of lightning illuminated the sky, soon accompanied by the deep, resonant growl of thunder. Tom observed the family exchanging glances, engaged in one of those unspoken dialogues that only families seem to share. At last, Eleanor straightened her posture, her resolve firmly established. "Mr. Garrett, should you choose to assist us, we are prepared to place our trust in you. However, I must first seek clarification on a matter. What is that? What is the reason behind this? What could possibly motivate a stranger to extend a hand to a family he has only just encountered?" Tom remained silent for an extended moment, attuned to the sound of the rain while pondering the question at hand. How could he articulate the depth of his solitude, a state so prolonged that the sensation of belonging had slipped from his memory? How could he express that witnessing their unity in the face of adversity stirred within him a longing for what had been absent in his life? "Perhaps," he finally uttered, "as I've been searching for something throughout my entire existence, and I believe I may have just discovered it." Thunder rumbled ominously above, its proximity palpable, and as the Sullivan family ushered him into their home to weather the tempest, Tom Garrett came to understand that certain quests culminate precisely where they are destined to commence. The tempest descended with the ferocity of a beast unleashed, shaking the panes and causing the horses to prance anxiously within their confines. Tom sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by 6 children and their mother, partaking in a humble meal of stew and cornbread, as the wind outside howled like a creature of the night. "Please, Mr. Garrett, share a bit about yourself," Eleanor urged, as she gracefully added another spoonful of stew to his bowl. "From whence do you hail?" Tom savored each bite, contemplating his response. These individuals had been forthright with him regarding their struggles. Perhaps the moment had come to reciprocate with honesty. "I spent my formative years in Kansas," he remarked. "I lost my parents when I was around Patrick's age. I have been on the move ever since, tending to ranches and herding cattle." "Do you not have any family?" Molly inquired, her azure eyes sparkling with intrigue. "Not anymore, my dear, just me." Bridget placed her spoon down, her face reflecting a deep contemplation. "It seems quite isolating." "It is," Tom confessed, "more isolating than I allow myself to ponder most of the time." Patrick inclined his body, resting his elbows upon the table. "Mother says that solitude is distinct from loneliness. She suggests that solitude can coexist with happiness, especially when one is engaged in pursuits of significance." Tom considered him a clever lad. "Your mother is correct, however. Engaging in meaningful endeavors becomes simpler when surrounded by those who hold significance in your life." Michael abruptly sprang to his feet from the table. "I nearly overlooked it. I have completed my arithmetic homework. Would you like to take a look, Mr. Garrett?" In a burst of enthusiasm, he dashed to retrieve his slate, almost stumbling over the family's aged dog that lay in his path. Sean declared with pride that Michael was the brightest in his class. The teacher mentioned that there's a possibility he could attend a real school in Cheyenne one day. "If it is within our means," Eleanor added softly. Tom examined the boy's meticulous figures and tidy script. "This is commendable work, Michael. Your aptitude for numbers is impressive." The boy radiated with pride. "I aspire to become a banker in the future, or perhaps a journalist. I enjoy crafting narratives as well." "There's nothing amiss with aspiring for greatness," Tom remarked. "A clever individual such as yourself can achieve anything you aspire to." The tempest outside was intensifying. A brilliant flash of lightning illuminated the entire kitchen, swiftly followed by a thunderous roar that reverberated through the house. Molly let out a soft squeak as she inched her chair nearer to Tom's. "It's all right, sweetheart," Eleanor said. "It is merely a cacophony." Yet in that moment, an unfamiliar sound reached their ears. A resounding crack echoed, succeeded by a thunderous crash that appeared to originate just beyond the threshold. With a sudden burst of energy, Patrick leaped to his feet and dashed toward the window. The grand oak tree toppled, sprawling itself across the road. Tom sprang to his feet, his thoughts racing ahead of him. A fallen tree lay across the road, blocking all passage in and out. In the event of an emergency, should Mrs. Henley choose to return with increased urgency, or if anyone found themselves in need of assistance. "We must clear it," he stated. Amidst the tempest, Eleanor's expression betrayed her concern. "Tom, the world beyond is fraught with peril." A sudden flash of lightning illuminated the magnitude of the dilemma before them. The oak tree loomed large, its sturdy trunk entirely obstructing the narrow path that wound toward the ranch. The task of cutting it up and relocating it would consume hours, even with a group of individuals laboring together. We can't wait for the storm to pass, Tom said. If that tree remains in place, we are ensnared. And if we find ourselves ensnared, he left the thought hanging in the air, yet all comprehended the unspoken implication. To be ensnared was to be rendered powerless in the face of impending danger. I'll help, Patrick declared without hesitation. Me too, Michael added, though a flicker of fear danced in his eyes. Boys, you are not venturing out in this weather, Eleanor declared with conviction. Mother, we are not infants, Patrick contended. If Mr. Garrett insists that the tree must be cleared, then it is imperative that we proceed with its removal. Tom gazed at the family assembled around the table. Their father was already gone, leaving these children to navigate a world without him. He couldn't allow them to jeopardize their lives in the midst of a perilous storm. Yet, he found it impossible to overlook the resolute expression in Patrick's gaze, or the manner in which Michael squared his shoulders, as if preparing to demonstrate his worth. Here's what we'll do, Tom declared. Patrick and I shall venture out first. Witness the true extent of the situation. If the peril is too great, we shall return immediately. Should we believe that we can handle it with care, Michael may accompany us. Yet the younger ones remain indoors, nestled close to their mother. Sean's expression dimmed. I wish to contribute as well. You are providing assistance, Tom informed him. Your commitment to safety and your care for your sisters is truly commendable. That holds equal significance to any other role. Eleanor presented them with oilskin coats and hats. Be careful, she urged, her voice laced with concern. I cannot bear the thought of losing anyone else. Tom paused, slipping on his coat. The unadorned phrases bore the heavy burden of a mother's deepest anxieties. He vowed to exercise caution. We shall return. Beyond the walls, the tempest raged with a ferocity that far surpassed the echoes that had reached the sanctuary of the home. The rain pelted them with the ferocity of bullets, while the wind howled with such intensity that it almost sent Patrick sprawling to the ground. Yet the boy remained steadfastly by Tom's side as they journeyed toward the spot where the great oak had succumbed. The tree loomed larger than it had appeared from the window. The enormous trunk, broader than any man could encircle with his arms, sprawled across the road with an imposing presence. Branches extended in every direction, some as robust as the trees that stood beside them. What is our plan for moving this? Patrick's voice rose above the howling wind. Tom examined the scene, water cascading from the edge of his hat. It cannot be moved. We must divide it into manageable pieces, small enough to be dragged off the road. They retrieved axes and a lengthy saw from the barn. The labor was arduous and fraught with peril. Every few moments, a brilliant flash of lightning would illuminate the sky, compelling them to pause their rhythmic swings until the thunder rolled away. The rain rendered the ground treacherous, while the wind relentlessly sought to wrest the tools from their grasp. Yet gradually, bit by bit, they started to forge ahead. Patrick toiled with the resolve of a seasoned veteran, never uttering a word of complaint, even when Tom could discern the fatigue etched on his face. After the first hour, Michael made his entrance, and despite his smaller stature and youth, he exerted himself with equal fervor. A harmonious rhythm emerged among the three of them. Tom and Patrick would sever. Michael would assist in moving the fragments to the edge of the road. You lads are tougher than rawhide, Tom shouted amidst a fleeting pause in the tempest. My father often remarked that hard work has never been the cause of anyone's demise, Patrick responded, brushing the rain from his eyes. Ma claims he was mistaken about that, yet I believe he intended to convey that it fosters character. Tom smiled broadly, even in the midst of his fatigue. Your father was a man of great wisdom. As they toiled, Tom's mind wandered to Patrick's earlier words, the distinction between solitude and loneliness weighing heavily on him. For years, Tom had convinced himself that solitude was his chosen companion. There is no one to concern myself with, no one to let down, no one to part ways with. Yet, as he toiled alongside these young men, enveloped in a sense of belonging to something grander than his own existence, he came to the profound realization that he had been deceiving himself all this time. When they finally removed enough of the tree to restore the road, all three were drenched and trembling from the chill. Yet, as they made their way back to the house, Tom sensed a warmth blossoming in his chest, one that transcended the mere anticipation of dry clothes and steaming coffee. Eleanor greeted them at the door, towels in hand and a flurry of anxious inquiries spilling forth. The girls huddled together, their voices bubbling with excitement as they recounted the bravery of their brothers. As Tom sat by the fire, observing the tender interactions of this family, their love and care for one another, he came to a realization that filled him with a deeper fear than any tempest could conjure. He was reluctant to depart, neither tomorrow, nor next week, nor at any time in the future. That sensation was the most perilous one a wanderer could ever experience. 3 horses galloped toward the ranch at dawn, their riders adorned with silver badges that glimmered in the early light like ominous beacons. Tom's coffee cup halted in midair, suspended between anticipation and disbelief, as he caught sight of them through the kitchen window. The lead rider perched high in his saddle, his expression as unyielding as the coldest winter stone. "Eleanor," Tom murmured, placing his cup down with trembling hands, "bring the children indoors." At this moment. Yet, the moment had passed. The riders had arrived at the front yard, their horses snorting and pawing at the earth beneath them. The lead man descended with deliberate care, the soft jingle of his spurs accompanying each measured step. 2 deputies stood guard on the porch behind him, their hands poised on their gun belts, ready for any eventuality. "We're looking for Thomas Garrett," the sheriff declared, his voice echoing across the yard with the weight of a grim proclamation. Tom ascended the porch, his heart racing with such intensity that he imagined everyone around could hear its frantic rhythm. He sensed Eleanor's presence behind him, a comforting weight that radiated warmth. The children congregated at the windows, their faces flattened against the glass, akin to blossoms yearning for the warmth of the sun. "That would be me," Tom declared, lifting his hands for all to behold. "What appears to be the issue, Sheriff?" The lawman's gaze was as frigid as the ice of January. "Morrison is the name. A warrant for your arrest has been issued. You are being sought in connection with a bank heist in Denver City." The words struck Tom with the force of a gut-wrenching blow. In the heart of Denver City, Jake Tolliver and his crew had made their mark just a month prior. Tom's mouth felt parched, as if the very essence of moisture had been stripped away. "Sheriff, there's been a mistake," Eleanor said, taking a step closer. Her voice remained steady, yet Tom noticed the subtle tremor in her hands. "Mr. Garrett has graced us with his presence for more than a week, lending his hand to the tasks of ranch work." Morrison retrieved a creased piece of paper from his coat pocket. "A witness claims, ma'am, that Tom Garrett was with Jake Tolliver's gang during the first national bank heist." Tom sensed his universe collapsing around him, akin to a structure succumbing to the fury of a tempest. Jake Tolliver. The name resurfaced, unearthing memories he had long sought to entomb. 5 years prior, he had been part of Jake's gang for 2 harrowing years, yet he had never engaged in bank robberies or harmed the innocent. "It's been 5 years since I last laid eyes on Jake Tolliver," Tom remarked. His voice remained unwavering, even as the tempest swirled within him. "I have not transgressed any laws during my time in Wyoming." Deputy Wilson, a youthful figure with anxious eyes, advanced cautiously. "The witness was quite certain, Garrett. You mentioned being present when they took the $3,000. $3,000. A sum greater than what many individuals would encounter in an entire lifetime." Tom's thoughts surged like a tempest, grappling with the unsettling reality of how this haunting specter had tracked him down to the very sanctuary where he had begun to find solace. Patrick stood in the doorway, his youthful features contorted in a mask of fury. "This is utterly astonishing. Tom is the kind of person who would never harm even the smallest creature. He has been guiding me in the art of gentling horses while preserving their spirit." "Son, you need to step back," Morrison said, his tone gentle yet firm. "This is serious business." Yet young Molly maneuvered around her older brother, her rag doll held securely against her heart. "Tom reads me stories every night," she said, her voice a delicate whisper, yet brimming with determination. "Men of ill intent do not share tales with young girls." Tom felt a profound ache in his heart as he gazed upon the child, who had embraced him as one of their own. Only a week prior, he had been an unfamiliar face in search of a horse to purchase. At that moment, 6 children and their mother stood poised, prepared to defend him with unwavering resolve. "I value the insights you all are sharing," Morrison pressed on, "yet I am bound by my directives. The notorious gang led by Jake Tolliver has been wreaking havoc on banks spanning 3 territories. The law has little patience for those who dare to rob banks." Eleanor moved nearer to Tom, her chin lifted, embodying the spirit of a warrior poised for combat. "Should you choose to arrest him, Sheriff, it is imperative that you possess irrefutable evidence. This man has consistently demonstrated remarkable kindness towards my family." Morrison's expression took on a gentler hue. "Madam, I comprehend your emotions, yet do you truly grasp them?" Eleanor's Irish accent intensified as her anger flared. "Can you grasp the anguish of witnessing honorable individuals being held accountable for the misdeeds of others? To witness the distortion of justice through deception and trepidation?" Tom observed the courageous woman standing up for him, and a powerful sensation surged within his chest, as if it might burst forth. Never before had anyone taken a stand on his behalf. Not since the passing of his parents at the age of 16 had the world felt so desolate and unforgiving. "Eleanor, everything is fine," Tom murmured. "I'll accompany them. This will be resolved in due time." "Absolutely not," she retorted, her emerald eyes aflame. "I understand the fate that awaits men such as yourself in circumstances like these. Honorable individuals find themselves unjustly trapped, while the true wrongdoers roam unscathed." Morrison retrieved iron handcuffs that shimmered in the morning light. "I regret to inform you, ma'am, that Mr. Garrett must accompany us. In Cheyenne he shall receive a just trial." As the frigid metal clasped around Tom's wrists, he cast a glance back at the family that had transformed into his entire universe in merely 7 days. Michael stood there, clutching his schoolbooks tightly, his ink-stained fingers balled into fists. Bridget wrapped her arm around Sean, both of them struggling to hold back their tears. Patrick appeared poised to ignite a conflict, and Eleanor gazed at him with eyes brimming with a depth of emotion Tom had never encountered aimed at him before. Unwavering conviction, absolute trust in his innocence. "This isn't over, Thomas Garrett," she called out as Morrison assisted him onto the horse. Far from it. As they departed from the ranch, Tom turned in his saddle for a final glance back. The Sullivan family gathered on the porch, a bastion of affection and steadfastness. 6 children and their mothers stood together, resolute in the face of injustice. Behind them, storm clouds loomed on the horizon, ominous and foreboding. For the first time in his life, Tom understood that storms could be endured when there were those worth standing up for. The question lingered: would they stand and fight for him, or would reason prevail, urging them to let the troubles of a wanderer drift away into the distance? He was on the brink of discovering the profound depths of family loyalty, especially when everything hung in the balance. Eleanor Sullivan had already laid to rest one good man. She was determined not to surrender without a battle that would reverberate through the heart of Wyoming territory. Patrick secured the wagon with a practiced hand, her voice cut through the air as keen and precise as a cavalry saber. "Michael, please collect all the documents that Tom handled during his time here. Documentation, work logs, anything that substantiates his assistance to us over the past week." The older children leaped into action, akin to soldiers responding to their commander's directives. Yet the 8-year-old Sean clutched at his mother's skirt, his eyes brimming with a mix of confusion and fear. "Mother, what was the reason those men took Tom from us? He committed no wrongdoing." Eleanor sank to her knees, cradling her son's face gently in her hands. "At times, my dear, the world errs in its judgment of those who are truly good. Yet, our family stands steadfast, never turning our backs on those we hold dear. We stand resolute in our battle for them." "Even in the face of fear?" Molly inquired, her grip on her doll tightening. "Particularly when the fear loomed large," Eleanor responded, rising gracefully and adjusting the fabric of her black dress. "Your father often remarked that true courage lies not in the absence of fear. It's a matter of standing firm in your convictions, even when uncertainty grips you." Bridget, possessing a wisdom that belied her tender age of 12, was already in the midst of gathering food and blankets. "What is the distance to Cheyenne, Mama?" 2 days of arduous riding. 3, provided we take the time for a proper rest. Eleanor's thoughts surged with the myriad of essentials required for their expedition. Funds for a hotel room, nourishment for 6 burgeoning children, and, if fortune allows, a little extra to secure legal counsel if the situation demands. Patrick emerged in the doorway, his boots still encrusted with mud from the task of hitching the horses. "The wagons are prepared, Ma. Yet I find myself pondering, what if those lawmen held the truth? What if Tom truly did?" "Patrick Sullivan." Eleanor's voice possessed the chilling power of frozen fire. "This week has seen you laboring side by side with that man each day. You have witnessed the way he interacts with your younger sister and how he assisted your brother in improving his reading skills. Can you truly believe that a person capable of such tenderness could engage in bank robbery and inflict harm on the innocent?" Patrick's cheeks burned with a deep crimson hue. "Indeed not, ma'am, I do not." I pondered, "Perhaps we ought to brace ourselves for—" "We are ready for the truth," Eleanor declared with conviction. Indeed, Tom Garrett embodies honesty in a manner as enduring as the daylight itself. Michael lifted his gaze from the scattered papers he had been meticulously arranging. "Mother, I stumbled upon something peculiar." Tom settled his account with Mr. Henderson at the general store using gleaming gold coins. "However, they are quite aged, ancient. If he had just committed a bank heist, wouldn't he possess fresh bills?" Eleanor experienced a sudden rush of optimism. Her second son had consistently exhibited a keen eye for detail. "Well done, Michael. That's a clever thought. What other observations did you make?" His hands bear the calluses of hard ranch labor, yet his wrists remain unmarked by rope burns, as does his horse. "She has received attentive care, yet she lacks the capacity for swift movement. In the world of bank heists, swift steeds are essential for a successful escape." Bridget nodded thoughtfully, observing how he slept lightly, as if accustomed to solitude. Yet, he doesn't flinch at loud sounds like those who have faced the chaos of gunfire. Eleanor gazed at her children, a wave of pride surging within her heart. They approached the situation with the keen insight of detectives, meticulously gathering evidence to rescue the man who had woven himself into the fabric of their family. The wagon ride to Cheyenne stretched on, each moment feeling like an eternity for Eleanor. The children alternated in their task of leading the horses to rest, pausing only when it was truly essential. As they journeyed, tales of Tom flowed from them like a torrent unleashed from a shattered reservoir. "Recall the way he took it upon himself to repair the roof unprompted?" Sean remarked. "And how he instructed me in the art of whistling, reminiscent of a meadowlark song?" Molly contributed. Bridget recalled how he never once raised his voice. "Even when I accidentally let the chickens loose, every memory served as a shield, guarding against the encroaching doubt that sought to infiltrate Eleanor's heart during the endless, shadowy hours of her journey." On the second day, they encountered fellow wanderers along the path. The news of the bank robber's arrest traveled swiftly, eliciting a spectrum of opinions. Word has it that one of Jake Tolliver's boys has been apprehended, a merchant making his way to Laramie. It seems the scales of justice are finally tipping for all those robberies. Yet, an aged trapper held a different opinion. "Jake Tolliver primarily operates in solitude. Exercise caution in sharing your thoughts with others. There's an unsettling quality to this arrest." Upon their arrival in Cheyenne, the air was thick with anticipation surrounding the imminent trial. Eleanor had never encountered such a vast crowd gathered in a single location. The streets buzzed with cowboys, merchants, families, and the curious, all lured by the unfolding drama. At the hotel, the desk clerk regarded Eleanor with a hint of skepticism as she inquired about securing 2 rooms for herself and her 6 children. "Are you certain you can cover the cost of all that, ma'am?" Eleanor set 3 gold coins upon the counter, a portion of the emergency fund she had discreetly safeguarded since the passing of her husband. "I am certain." As dusk fell and the children nestled into their beds, Eleanor perched by the window, her gaze fixed on the courthouse where Tom's destiny awaited its verdict. Within the confines of that building, he likely occupied a frigid cell, pondering whether anyone possessed the resolve to advocate for his freedom. "Mother?" Patrick materialized next to her, his voice barely above a whisper. "What if we are unable to establish Tom's innocence? What if the jury finds credence in that witness's testimony?" Eleanor extended her hand towards her eldest son. "Together, we shall confront that, united as a family. However, Patrick, it is essential for you to grasp this point. Striving for justice transcends the notions of victory or defeat. It's about rising to the occasion when someone calls upon you for support. Is it worth sacrificing it all?" Eleanor reflected on the ranch they had departed, the creatures awaiting care, the mortgage payment looming, a relentless obligation regardless of their absence. She pondered the dangers they were embracing by arriving here, by exposing themselves to the scrutiny of lawyers, judges, and townsfolk, who might conclude that a widow with 6 children had no right to defend an accused bank robber. "Your father always said that everything worth having comes with a price," she finally remarked. "The issue at hand is not about our ability to finance the battle for Tom. The inquiry at hand is whether we can truly bear the cost of inaction." In the distance, the church bell tolled midnight, heralding the dawn of what might be the most significant day in Tom Garrett's existence. Eleanor shut her eyes, seeking strength, wisdom, and the opportunity to demonstrate that families extend beyond mere blood ties. At times, it revolved around the profound decision to love someone so deeply that one would dare to sacrifice everything for their liberation. The courthouse doors burst open with a resounding crash that startled all in attendance. Eleanor Sullivan strode in with her 6 children trailing behind her, resembling a line of baby ducks. She donned her finest black dress, the one reserved for church, yet her eyes burned with a fierce intensity that could melt steel. "Your Honor," Eleanor called out, her Irish accent lilting through the courtroom, "I need to speak about Thomas Garrett." The judge appeared taken aback. His large gray eyebrows arched dramatically on his forehead. "Your Honor, this is not the procedure we follow in a courtroom setting. Perhaps that is the crux of the issue," Eleanor retorted. Her voice resonated throughout the crowded room, echoing like a bell's chime. Onlookers in the gallery shifted their gaze, captivated by the unfolding scene. Soft murmurs exchanged behind cupped hands filled the air. Tom occupied the front table, bound in heavy chains. His heart leaped at the sight of Eleanor and the children. Patrick stood proudly beside his mother, exuding an air of maturity that made him appear more like a man than a boy. Little Molly held her rag doll close to her heart. Her lower lip quivered, yet tears did not fall. The prosecutor, a slender figure with a keenly defined nose, rose abruptly. "Your Honor, this woman has no place in this matter. We are in the midst of prosecuting a perilous offender." Eleanor lifted her chin, exuding a fierce determination as if preparing to confront a bear. "The true peril lies in allowing an innocent individual to bear the weight of blame for actions they did not commit." Judge Hawthorne struck his gavel with a decisive thud. "Command. Mrs. Sullivan, you have the floor, but please be brief." Eleanor made her way to the center of the room. The sound of her shoes echoed against the wooden floor. A hush fell over the crowd. Even the infants in the rear ceased their whimpering. Just a week prior, Thomas Garrett arrived with the intention of purchasing a horse. Eleanor commenced. Her voice resonated with strength and clarity. Instead, he discovered a family on the brink of losing it all. He might have chosen to ride away. Many men would have. She gestured in Tom's direction. "In the midst of a downpour, this man diligently repaired our broken fence. Each evening, he dedicated his time to assisting my children with their schoolwork. As my youngest daughter wrestled with her nightmares, he would take a seat beside her bed, weaving tales that gently lulled her into slumber." Michael rose from his seat. The boy, just 12 years of age, raised a hefty notebook high in the air. "I meticulously documented every action taken by Mr. Garrett during his time with us. Each passing day, each passing hour. Observe." He cracked open the book and delved into its pages. On Monday, Mr. Garrett lent his skills to mend the barn door. With his own funds, he procured nails. On Tuesday, he instructed Patrick in the art of taming wild horses with a gentle touch, ensuring no harm came to the creatures. On Wednesday, he journeyed to town and returned with medicine when Sean fell ill. The prosecutor attempted to interject. "Your Honor, this is merely—" "Allow the boy to complete his thoughts," Judge Hawthorne asserted with conviction. Michael persisted in his examination of dates and times. Every entry depicted Tom engaging in acts of kindness for the family, assisting with household tasks, procuring groceries, educating the young ones. The enumeration seemed endless. Next, it was Bridget's turn, a girl of 10, who rose to her feet. Mr. Garrett imparted the skill of deciphering grandiose vocabulary to me. He remarked that intelligent girls evolve into resilient women. Sean, at the tender age of 8, leaped up as well. He assisted me in capturing fireflies, and he remarked that my drawings were worthy of display in a museum. Little Molly found herself unable to remain silent any longer. She dashed to the forefront of the courtroom. Her delicate voice resonated throughout every nook and cranny. "Tom weaves the most captivating tales. He declared that the princess required no rescue, for she possessed the courage to save herself." The courtroom erupted into a flurry of activity, reminiscent of a beehive in full swing. Individuals exchanged glances and engaged in quiet conversation. Several women in the gallery were visibly moved, their eyes glistening with tears. Patrick advanced with deliberate caution. He appeared to carry the weight of time far beyond his 16 years. "Your Honor, it has been 6 months since my father passed away. I have been striving to embody the role of the man of the house. Yet Tom revealed to me the true essence of a man. He always maintained a calm demeanor with us. He never claimed what was not rightfully his. A bank robber has no inclination to spend time imparting the skill of reading to children. The prosecutor's face flushed with a deep crimson hue. This is profoundly moving. Yet, it fails to substantiate any claims. Those who engage in criminal behavior are often deceitful. They feign virtue. Eleanor's eyes sparkled with fury. Are you suggesting that my children are being dishonest? Are you really suggesting that 6 children and their mother are mistaken about a man who stayed in our home for an entire week? Eleanor's voice rose in volume. Is it possible that we are unable to distinguish between a virtuous man and a wicked one? From the rear of the room, Mrs. Henley, the bankwoman, raised her voice. I personally witnessed Mr. Garrett at the Sullivan Ranch. He toiled away on their fence. His hands bore the marks of diligent labor. A greater number of voices began to emerge in conversation. The blacksmith claimed to have sold Tom horseshoes. The proprietor of the general store remarked that Tom had purchased flour and sugar, settling the bill with genuine currency. One by one, individuals rose to share their observations of Tom engaging in ordinary yet commendable acts of kindness. Judge Hawthorne struck his gavel once more. Mr. Prosecutor, can you present any concrete evidence that Mr. Garrett was in Denver at the time of this robbery? The slender figure shuffled through his papers. We have a witness who claims one witness, the judge interjected, against an entire town of individuals who assert he was present. Tom sensed a burgeoning hope within him, akin to the gentle embrace of a warm sunrise, yet a lingering fear held him back from fully embracing it. He had come to understand the importance of skepticism towards the allure of good fortune. In an unexpected turn, the courtroom doors swung open once more. This occasion, an American. Marshall entered the room. A figure emerged from the shadows, shackled and burdened, sending a chill coursing through Tom's veins. It had been 5 long years since Jake Tolliver had crossed paths with his former gang leader Tom. Jake appeared more weathered, his frame leaner, and the harsh lines etched around his eyes spoke of untold stories. Yet that perilous smile lingered, the very one that had led them all down a treacherous path. Apologies for the interruption, Your Honor, the marshal interjected, but this individual claims to possess crucial information regarding Thomas Garrett. Eleanor took hold of Patrick's hand. The children huddled together, instinctively drawing near, much like sheep sensing the presence of a lurking wolf. Tom's heart raced fiercely, a relentless drumbeat that felt as if it echoed through the very air around him. Jake surveyed the courtroom with a gaze that was as frigid as ice. Upon laying eyes on the Sullivan family, an unusual sensation washed over him. His cruel smile faded away. He gazed at little Molly cradling her doll, at Sean peeking from behind his mother's skirt, at the entire family standing united, a formidable barrier of support surrounding Tom. Well, Judge Hawthorne inquired, what do you have to say? Jake parted his lips, ready to utter a word. Silence enveloped the courtroom, each person suspended in anticipation. The words that followed would determine whether Tom faced the cold confines of prison or embraced the warmth of his new family. Yet would Jake reveal the truth, or would he weave a web of deceit to exact his revenge on the man who had turned his back on the gang? Jake Tolliver's chains clinked ominously as he moved ahead, each sound echoing like the remnants of a long-forgotten tale. All eyes in the courtroom were fixed upon him, anticipation hanging in the air as they awaited his words. Tom stood at the precipice, teetering between the abyss of darkness and the warmth of sunlight awaiting him. Jake stated emphatically that Thomas Garrett was never the one to rob that bank. The words reverberated through the room with the force of thunder. A collective gasp echoed through the crowd. The prosecutor's jaw dropped, reminiscent of a fish gasping for air. For a fleeting moment, Tom found himself gasping for air. Jake continued to speak. It has been 5 long years since Tom departed from our group, and I have yet to lay eyes on him again. He declared that I was on a direct path to hell and that he would not accompany me on that journey. Eleanor's hand darted to her chest. She felt the warm tears begin to cascade down her cheeks. Patrick draped his arm around his mother's shoulders, standing tall and resolute. Judge Hawthorne inclined his body slightly, the weight of his presence filling the spacious chair. Are you suggesting that you were untruthful regarding Mr. Garrett's involvement with your gang? Jake's expression contorted, hinting at a possible sense of shame. I allowed others to believe he remained among us, for he paused and cast his gaze upon Tom. because I was frustrated that he discovered a more fulfilling path to existence. The prosecutor leaped to his feet. Your Honor, it is clear that this individual is attempting to aid his friend in evading the consequences of his actions. Companion? Jake's laughter echoed, yet it carried no trace of joy. The night Tom Garrett labeled me a thief and a coward marked the end of our friendship. Claimed I was taking from families merely striving to endure. Silence enveloped the courtroom once more. Even the infant fell silent. Jake cast his gaze upon the Sullivan children, neatly arranged in the front row. His voice grew quieter. That evening, we had borrowed horses from a family with children roughly the same age as ours. He gestured in the direction of Molly and Sean. Tom observed the tearful faces of the children as we departed, leaving their beloved animals behind. He cast aside his portion of the money and galloped into the shadows. Michael raced across the pages of his notebook, striving to seize each word with fervor. Bridget grasped Sean's hand firmly. Little Molly embraced her doll tightly, her gaze fixed on Jake, her eyes wide and earnest. "What makes you worthy of our trust at this moment?" Judge Hawthorne inquired. Jake remained silent for an extended period. Then he remarked, "For one can't help but observe him, observe the creation he has crafted." He waved his hand in the direction of Tom and the Sullivan family. Such an action is far removed from the typical behavior of a bank robber. A good man would do just that. The marshal advanced with purpose. "There is additional information, Your Honor. Mr. Tolliver has consented to assist us in locating the funds that his gang has pilfered throughout the years. He suggests that Mr. Garrett may have knowledge of the location of some of it." Tom felt his stomach plummet, heavy and unyielding. Although Jake spoke the truth regarding the bank robbery, the shadow of Tom's past loomed large. He transformed his actions, leaving behind the choices of his past. Eleanor appeared to decipher the very essence of his thoughts. She approached Tom, gently clasping his bound hands within her own. "What you have done in the past holds no significance now," she murmured. "I understand your true identity now." Tom sensed the sharp sting of tears welling in his eyes. "Eleanor, there are aspects of my history that I must share. That's a matter for you and God," she stated with conviction. "Perhaps it lies in the space between you and those you have wronged. However, this matter does not solely involve the two of us." Judge Hawthorne struck his gavel with authority. "Given the recent testimony, I have decided to withdraw all charges against Thomas Garrett." The courtroom erupted in a cacophony of cheers. Patrick let out a jubilant whoop, reminiscent of a cowboy's spirited call. Michael tossed his hat skyward. The young ones leaped with joy, bouncing up and down. Eleanor pressed her face against Tom's shoulder while a deputy worked to free him from his chains. Yet, the revelry came to an abrupt halt as the marshal cleared his throat. "Mr. Garrett, we would still appreciate the opportunity to discuss how you might assist us in recovering the stolen funds. Some families may remain forever deprived of what was once theirs." Tom cast his gaze upon the Sullivan children. They had imparted to him the true essence of family. At this moment, he found an opportunity to assist other families in reclaiming what had been taken from them. "I'll help," Tom declared, his resolve unwavering. "Whatever fragments of memory linger, wherever the wealth may be concealed, those families are entitled to reclaim their rightful property." Jake nodded, a hint of respect evident in his demeanor. "You've always been far too candid for your own benefit, Tom." "Perhaps that isn't as unfavorable as it seems," Tom responded. The marshal conveyed that the process of reclaiming the stolen funds would require patience and time. Tom would have to journey to various locations where the gang had concealed their treasure. It could require several months to uncover all that is needed. Eleanor clasped Tom's hand tightly. "We'll wait," she said simply, "however long it takes." Patrick advanced, his demeanor reflecting a newfound seriousness and maturity. "Mr. Garrett, we shall maintain the ranch's operations until your return. Your lessons have equipped me to manage everything that comes my way. The horses will miss you," Sean said, his voice heavy with emotion. "I shall pen you letters each week," Michael vowed, gesturing with his notebook. Young Molly pulled at Tom's coat. "Will you return and share more tales with me?" Tom lowered himself to meet her gaze. "No force of nature could ever hold me back." As they exited the courthouse, Tom sensed a transformation within himself, a stark contrast to the man who had entered moments before. The chains had vanished, yet beyond that, the burden of shouldering his past in solitude had lifted as well. He was surrounded by those who placed their faith in him, individuals who recognized his spirit rather than his shortcomings. Jake was taken away to fulfill his sentence behind bars. Before he vanished beyond the threshold, he shouted, "Tom, look after that family. They hold a value surpassing all the gold we ever took." Tom inclined his head in acknowledgement. He was already aware of that. The scent of rain mingled with the freshness of new grass in the spring air. As the Sullivan family settled into their wagon, they created a space for Tom to join them amidst their gathering. Eleanor perched beside him, her hand gently laid on his arm, a steadfast anchor in the tumult of the moment. "Do you find yourself concerned about the journeys that await you?" she inquired. Tom surveyed the faces surrounding him. Patrick, his hands firm on the reins of the wagon, Michael, lost in thought as he crafted his next letter, and Bridget and Sean, engaged in a spirited debate over who would claim the coveted window seat at home. Little Molly nestled against his side, her doll held close to her heart. "No," Tom said, grasping a crucial insight. "At long last I have discovered the true essence of home. Regardless of the distances I traverse, I will inevitably navigate my way home." As the wagon creaked along the dusty streets of Cheyenne, Tom came to understand that the most challenging journey is not merely the search for belonging. At times, it's about embracing the notion that you are worthy of remaining in that space. With Eleanor's hand resting warmly on his arm and 6 children who had embraced him as family, Tom felt prepared to settle the debts of his past, allowing him to wholeheartedly welcome the promise of his future. The journey before him may stretch endlessly, yet he would no longer traverse it in solitude. A gunshot pierced the morning air, echoing like a clap of thunder. Tom plunged behind the hotel's wooden staircase, the sharp commands of Marshal Davies ringing out to his men. Despite the chaos erupting on Cheyenne's main street, with 3 riders galloping forward and firing their weapons, Jake Tolliver's gang remained undeterred. With a fierce resolve to quell the voice of their past leader before he could reveal the whereabouts of the remaining stolen fortune, Tom felt his heart race, his thoughts consumed by Eleanor and the children nestled within the hotel. Were they truly safe? The breakfast they had shared merely an hour prior seemed to belong to a distant past. He had been sharing with them the dilemma of whether to pursue the reward money or to leave his past behind for good. Now his history was rushing toward him with relentless force. "Take cover!" Tom shouted to Patrick, who stood motionless beside their wagon. The 16-year-old boy crouched behind the wooden wheels as bullets shattered the hotel sign overhead. Eleanor emerged from the hotel doorway, her complexion pale and etched with terror. "Children!" she called out. "Stay inside!" Tom shouted back. Through the glass, he caught a glimpse of little Molly's frightened expression. This was precisely the fear that had haunted him, his perilous past, inflicting pain upon those he cherished. Marshal Davies crept toward Tom's concealed refuge. The relentless pursuit of these boys would not cease until Jake lay lifeless, he declared as he methodically reloaded his weapon. They are acutely aware that he possesses knowledge capable of condemning them to a lifetime behind bars. Tom grasped the dreadful mathematics. If Jake were to pass away, the secret of the concealed fortune would perish alongside him. Families in distress, having fallen victim to theft, would find their hard-earned savings irretrievably lost. Yet, should Tom assist in apprehending these criminals, he would be plunging directly into the chaos he had sought to escape. "Mr. Garrett," Davies pressed on, "I understand your desire for tranquility, yet there are moments when honorable individuals must take up arms to secure that very peace." Another barrage of gunfire echoed through the air. Tom's ears pricked at the sound of shattering glass. Someone had fired a shot through the front window of the general store. Unwitting souls sought refuge, scattering for safety down the length of the street. Mrs. Henderson, the baker's wife, wept quietly behind an overturned cart. Old Mr. Wilson found himself ensnared within the confines of his barber shop. Tom has made his decision. He dashed through the muck of the street, seeking refuge behind wooden barrels and hitching posts. He aimed for the sheriff's office, a place where additional firearms lay in wait. Should he manage to equip more townsfolk, they might encircle the outlaws rather than cower in fear. "Ah, Patrick," Tom summoned Eleanor's eldest son. "Are you capable of managing a rifle?" The boy's eyes widened, yet he gave a solemn nod. "Indeed, sir. My father imparted the art of hunting to me." Tom flung a Winchester rifle from the sheriff's rack toward Patrick. "It's akin to the pursuit, my boy. Instead, we are safeguarding rather than taking life for sustenance." The gunfight dragged on, an eternity compressed into mere minutes, Tom's mind wandered, not to the peril that surrounded him, but to the decision that had occupied his thoughts throughout the morning. His response was as follows. Inscribed in wisps of smoke and the remnants of gunpowder, certain trails meandered back into the shadows of past errors. Alternative routes unfolded, ushering in fresh responsibilities. As the echoes of gunfire faded into silence, two of the outlaws lay lifeless, while the third, injured and subdued, was taken into custody. Tom had sustained a gunshot wound to his shoulder, nothing life-threatening. Yet it served as a stark reminder that aligning oneself with the right cause did not grant immunity from harm. Eleanor hurried to his side the moment the street was clear. Her hands trembled as she scrutinized his injury. "You could have lost your life," she murmured. "But I wasn't," Tom replied, a newfound clarity in his voice. "Now I understand what I must do with that reward money." Marshal Davies made his way toward them, his hat coated in dust and his badge bearing the marks of a bullet that had narrowly missed its target. "Mr. Garrett, these individuals were in possession of a map. It appears that Jake was not the sole individual aware of the location of the concealed stolen money. They intended to gather everything before Jake had a chance to speak." Tom examined the crude sketch on the sheet of paper. He identified numerous landmarks, familiar sights he had passed while riding alongside Jake's gang over the course of 2 years. Locations where the life savings of unsuspecting individuals lay hidden, reminiscent of buried pirate treasure. "I'm familiar with these places," Tom murmured softly. "Every single one of them." Eleanor gazed at him, her green eyes piercing through the layers of his being, as if they could unravel the very essence of his soul. "This has transcended the realm of mere finances, hasn't it?" Tom shook his head in disbelief. "It revolves around the pursuit of justice." "Absolutely correct. Not merely a matter of legality." Patrick advanced, the rifle still gripped firmly in his hands, a testament to the bravery that had preserved the town. "We could accompany you," he said. "Everyone in the family. Transform it into an adventure rather than a solitary challenge." Michael emerged, his trusty notebook in hand, having meticulously chronicled the entire gunfight from the vantage point of the hotel window. "Imagine the tales we could weave about discovering treasure and restoring it to its rightful owners." Bridget was meticulously arranging the supplies with a level of efficiency that would undoubtedly benefit her in her role. "We must gather provisions for our journey spanning several days and ensure we have medical supplies on hand should any unforeseen troubles arise." Young Molly grasped at Tom's uninjured arm with a gentle pull. "Papa Tom," she said, the name that sent a flutter through his heart each and every time. "Will there be more villains seeking to cause us harm?" Tom lowered himself to her eye level, a faint grimace crossing his face from the ache in his shoulder. "Perhaps, my dear. However, do you know what I discovered today?" "What is this?" "At times the most terrifying presence isn't the villains lurking in the shadows. It is the courage to pursue righteousness even in the face of peril." Sean, having absorbed the conversation in silence, finally interjected with the profound insight of an 8-year-old. As Eleanor reflected on her son's observation, a smile crept across her face, reminiscent of the moment when Mama chose to confront the bank representatives rather than surrendering to despair. Precisely in that manner. As the family readied themselves for an expedition spanning 3 territories in pursuit of their stolen fortune, Tom came to the profound realization that his compass had been guiding them true all along. Not in pursuit of a destination, but in the service of a purpose. Not directed at a location, but rather at those individuals who transformed any setting into a sanctuary of belonging. The promised reward money would arrive in due time, as the lawmen had assured. Yet the true treasure lay not concealed within distant canyons, or tucked away in forsaken mines. Surrounding him were 6 children who affectionately referred to him as Papa, alongside a woman who had imparted the lesson that love was merely the act of repeatedly choosing another's happiness above all else. Marshal Davies arrived, delivering the last set of instructions along with a caution regarding the perilous terrain they were about to traverse. "Are you certain about bringing the entire family?" he inquired. Tom cast a glance at Eleanor, who responded with a resolute nod. He gazed at Patrick, who stood tall, radiating newfound confidence. He gazed at the younger children, their eyes sparkling with the thrill of adventure, confident that their family could conquer any challenge that lay ahead. "Marshal," Tom said, "I've been evading my past for 5 years. It's time I confronted it directly and I can't imagine better company for this journey. Half a year had passed, and the inaugural snowfall of winter gently coated the peaks surrounding their ranch when Tom caught the sound of galloping horses drawing near. He seized his rifle and approached the window, yet his anxiety dissipated upon catching sight of the recognizable blue uniform of Marshal Davies, accompanied by the relieved expressions of bank officials hailing from 3 distinct territories. "Mr. Garrett," Davies exclaimed as he stepped down from his mount. "Exciting news awaits you." Eleanor emerged from the house, her hands adorned with flour from the art of bread-making. The children assembled as they invariably did upon the arrival of guests, filled with curiosity, a sense of guardianship, and a bond of unity. Tom continued to be in awe of how effortlessly they had transformed into a cohesive family, confronting every challenge side by side. The final remnants of the pilfered funds have been restored. With a grin, Davies declared that every penny had been accounted for and returned to its rightful owners. Financial institutions across the territories of Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana have all verified that their funds have been replenished. Mr. Peterson from the Denver bank advanced, clutching an envelope so thick it could nearly suffocate a horse. "Your reward awaits you, Mr. Garrett. $15,000 as agreed upon. A sum greater than what the majority of families encounter throughout their entire lives." Tom gazed at the envelope, hesitating to extend his hand toward it just yet. $15,000, sufficient to acquire the most exquisite ranch in the region, sufficient to secure a future for his offspring. He envisioned them as his own, certain they would never lack for anything. Davies pressed on, revealing further details. "The territorial governor extends an invitation for you to assume the role of special investigator. Attractive compensation, dignity, and an opportunity to apply your expertise in clandestine activities to assist families similar to your own." Eleanor's breath caught in her throat, a sound so faint yet unmistakable, it reached Tom's ears. They had discussed this potential outcome throughout their extensive journey to reclaim the concealed fortune. A consistent position within the realm would signify stability, respect, and a promising future. It would also entail months spent away from home, confronting perils that could render 6 children fatherless once more. "That's a rather intriguing proposition," Tom remarked with caution. Little Molly, now 9 and as fierce as her mother, stepped forward with a directness that consistently astonished the adults around her. "Papa Tom, must you leave us to take on this work?" The bank official appeared perplexed by the child's inquiry, yet Tom bent down to meet Molly's gaze. "At times, my dear, I would always return home." "Is it akin to when soldiers embark on their journey to war?" Sean inquired, his voice tinged with the anxiety of a 10-year-old who had already experienced the loss of one father. Tom sensed the heavy gaze of 6 pairs of eyes, scrutinizing his features. The children had come to understand the weight of promises, knowing they should not be taken lightly. They had come to understand that men could vanish without a trace, leaving their families to grapple with solitude and hardship. At 17, Patrick stood nearly as tall as Tom, his words carrying an unexpected weight of maturity. "Mr. Davies, could you please elaborate on the specifics of this job?" The marshal appeared taken aback by the young man's forthrightness, pursuing outlaw gangs with determination. "Primarily, it was your father who managed to catch himself. Mr. Garrett's understanding of the inner workings of these gangs has the potential to protect countless innocent lives." Michael lifted his gaze from the notebook, where he had meticulously chronicled every word of the dialogue. "How many lives untouched by guilt? It's difficult to determine. There could be numerous. It might amount to hundreds throughout the years." Bridget, ever the pragmatist, posed the question that lingered in the minds of all present. What a perilous situation. Davies lingered, and the silence spoke volumes. Eleanor at last found her voice. "Thomas, what whispers does your heart convey?" Tom rose gradually, sensing the familiar burden of decision, yet this moment felt distinct. 5 years prior, decisions revolved around escaping from something. At that moment, they found themselves racing toward a brighter future. "My heart tells me," Tom said, "that I've spent enough years making up for the past. Perhaps the moment has come to concentrate on shaping what lies ahead." He faced Davies, his expression a blend of respect and determination. "Marshal, I appreciate the offer, but my responsibilities lie with the ranch and my children. It appears that this is quite the adventure for any man to undertake." The bank officials cast quick, astonished looks at one another. Many men would eagerly seize the opportunity for such esteemed employment, Yet Tom pressed on, extending his hand toward the reward envelope. I have a proposal to make. He carefully unsealed the hefty envelope and methodically counted out precisely half of the cash within. This is aimed at creating a fund to support families impacted by criminal activities. Those left behind, widows, orphans, and individuals stripped of all they held dear by the ruthless grip of gangs such as Jake's. Eleanor's eyes widened in astonishment. Thomas, he declared, lifting the leftover funds, will be allocated to the growth of our ranch. We shall cultivate the most exceptional horses in the region and offer genuine opportunities for those ready to put in the effort. Davies smiled, welcoming former outlaws seeking redemption. Indeed, those in particular, Tom responded. Each individual is entitled to the chance. I visit family, eager to witness the person he might become rather than the one he once was. As the officials readied themselves to depart, Mr. Peterson discreetly beckoned Tom to one side. Are you absolutely sure about this choice? The opportunity presented by that job offer is not destined to linger indefinitely. Tom surveyed the tableau before him. Patrick engaged in a conversation about horse breeding techniques with Davies. Michael was conducting interviews with the bank officials for an article he intended to craft. Bridget meticulously arranged the supplies for the visitor's journey back home. Sean proudly displayed his reading prowess to all who would lend an ear. Molly spun intricate tales for her cherished collection of dolls, and Eleanor observed it all with the serene satisfaction of a woman whose family was whole. Mr. Peterson, Tom remarked, I dedicated the first 35 years of my life to the pursuit of treasure. It appears I was searching in entirely the wrong locations. As the evening unfolded, snowflakes danced softly outside and the family convened around their dinner table. Tom, with a sense of nostalgia, retrieved the old compass he had cherished for countless years. 6 months prior, he had retrieved it from the Cheyenne Hotel, convinced it would prove essential for their quest to reclaim the stolen money. What made you hold on to that relic? Patrick inquired. You possess a clear sense of direction now. Tom smiled, lifting the compass into the firelight, where its brass surface gleamed. It was a reminder of the significance of knowing one's origins. He pried open the rear of the compass, uncovering a minuscule compartment he had never disclosed to a soul. Within lay a small, weathered photograph capturing a young couple, his parents, who had passed away when he was just 16, leaving him to navigate the world alone. All these years I've carried them with me, Tom said softly, yearning for a place where they would take pride in seeing me finally settled. Eleanor extended her hand and grasped his gently. Do you believe this is the end? Tom surveyed the table, his gaze drifting over faces that had grown more familiar than the image he saw in the mirror. It was the children who imparted to him the profound lesson that true courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the decision to embrace love in the face of it. A woman who revealed to him that the most resilient families are not simply created, they are forged through the everyday decisions to uplift one another. I know it is, he said. Later that evening, as Tom and Eleanor lingered on their porch, observing the snow enveloping their surroundings, she finally posed the question that had loomed over them throughout the day. Do you have any second thoughts about declining that position? Tom drew her nearer, inhaling the fragrance of her hair and the unspoken promise of their shared future. Eleanor Sullivan Garrett, he remarked, invoking the name she had embraced following their discreet wedding just 3 months prior. I've come to realize something significant about the pursuit of treasure. What is that? The true treasure is not an object to be discovered. It is a creation that unfolds gradually, moment by moment, shaped by the decisions made and the companions who willingly join in the endeavor. A solitary wolf serenaded the winter moon with its haunting howl, echoing through the stillness of the night. Once, Tom had come to grasp the essence of loneliness. In that moment, enveloped by the soft melodies of his family embracing their evening rituals, he grasped a profound truth, the serenity that arises from being precisely where one is meant to be, alongside those who require him just as much as he yearns for them. The solitary cowboy seeking to acquire a horse had come to realize that certain transactions transcend the mere exchange of gold. Their essence demands the currency of courage, compassion, and an unwavering belief that every individual is worthy of a family, whether it is one they are born into or one forged through the audacious choice to love without assurances. At times, when hearts possess courage and faith stands unwavering, that family transforms into the most precious treasure of all.